just got off work when I ran into a college classmate at the subway station. She asked me, after all these years, when I would forgive Rudolph. Rudolph was my childhood sweetheart, and we almost got married 5 years ago, but at the engagement banquet the night before our marriage registration, he publicly called off the wedding. He said he didn't want to be a substitute for my white moonlight, wishing us a happy union for 100 years. Then he took his graduate senior sister's hand and walked away without looking back. I wanted to explain in confusion that I never had any so-called white moonlight, but was left utterly devastated by his words. In the end, I left City T. Rudolph has always had you in his heart. He said if you hadn't used him as a substitute for your white moonlight back then, the two of you would have been married long ago. Now, as long as you're willing to admit your mistake, he can rekindle the old flame with you. Rekindle the old flame. I laughed. My child is already 3 years old. What past romance are you talking about? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Kara's mouth formed an O shape, big enough to fit an egg. She stared at me blankly, as if she'd just heard some outlandish fairy tale. Am married. Her voice was faltering. The child is already in kindergarten. I nodded. Not wanting to waste any more words, I turned to leave. She grabbed me with astonishing strength. Impossible, Angela. You can't be lying to me. Her emotional outburst drew stares from people waiting nearby. Everyone in the City T circle knows how much you loved Rudolph. For his sake, you even gave up the chance to be recommended to a prestigious school. How could you possibly marry someone else? I frowned. Hearing these old stories from her lips only felt ironic. I did love Rudolph. Loving someone enough to give up everything for them. But that's all in the past now. Why would I lie to you? I retorted. My indifference seemed to have provoked her. Then who is your husband? What does he do? Is Rudolph wealthy? Does he come from a better family? She fired off questions in rapid succession, her words dripping with superiority, as if I'd married some worthless good-for-nothing who couldn't show his face in public. I ignored her and tried hard to shake off her grip. She only gripped tighter, refusing to relent. Angela, are you just being stubborn? I know that incident back then wronged you, but it's been 5 years. Any resentment should have faded by now. Do you know Rudolph how he's lived these past 5 years? She began speaking on her own, her tone brimming with pride. After taking over the Maximilian family, he implemented sweeping reforms. Now the Maximilian family's market value has tripled. He's become the most dazzling rising star in the business world. He's remained chaste for you. Aside from Betty as a work partner, he doesn't even have female companions around him. Everyone says he's devoted, wasting 5 years of his life on a woman who didn't know how to cherish him. The Rudolph she described was deep and powerful, like a perfect tragic hero, but listening to it just made me sick. It reminded me of a phone call I received before leaving City T. It was Rudolph's mother, Mrs. Maximilian, calling. Her voice was as gentle and polite as ever, yet carried an unmistakable air of detachment. Angela dear, Auntie knows you've been wronged. On the other end of the line, she let out a soft sigh. Rudolph, that child has been spoiled by us, too impulsive by half. First she tried to calm me down, then she shifted her tone. But then again, young couples like you are bound to have little quarrels when dating. That's perfectly normal. Rudolph is just starting his career and under a lot of pressure. What he needs is a virtuous wife who can support and guide him by his side. I held the phone silently at that moment. I understood the implication behind her words. Betty, I've met that girl a few times. She's intelligent and steady. She is highly accomplished academically, shares many common topics with Rudolph, and has been a great help to his career. Mrs. Maximilian's voice was soft, yet every word struck deep into my heart. As for you, your lively nature is good, but in Rudolph's position, what his future wife needs is dignity and propriety. Propriety. In her eyes, all my passion and vitality had become not being settled enough. I grew up in the Maximilian household. She watched me grow up and treated me like her own daughter, but when it came to the crucial moment, 20 years of affection couldn't compare to a single phrase about being helpful to one's career. Apparently, in the eyes of these wealthy families, social status matching and career benefits will always matter more than childhood sweetheart bonds. I didn't say anything at the time, just silently hung up the phone, then I blocked all their family's contact information. Angela, are you even listening to me? Kara nudged me impatiently when she noticed I was spacing out. Rudolph treated you so well, and now you're marrying an ordinary man. Are you really content with that? Don't you regret it? Regret? I looked at her as if she were a fool. I'm living a good life, I told her clearly, word by word. My life doesn't need anyone's concern. With that, I didn't give her another chance to pester me. I forcefully shook off her hand and turned to leave. After leaving City Tea, I completely severed ties with that past circle, changed my phone number, changed my address, changed to a new city, so they all thought I was still stuck in the same place, waiting for that lofty man to turn back and save me. But they didn't know, my life had long since turned to a new chapter. As for Rudolph, he was merely a crossed-out typo on the previous page. The bus arrived at the stop, I got off and walked into the kindergarten near my home. Through the fence, I saw my son playing on the slide with his classmates, his face radiant with laughter. A tall figure walked up to him and picked him up. "It's my husband, Malcolm." When he saw me, he also smiled and walked toward me carrying the child. "You're home so early today." He took the bag from my hand and naturally held mine. "I missed you, so I came back early." I smiled and pinched my son's chubby cheeks. My son nuzzled against me in my arms and called out in a milky voice, "Mommy." This moment of warmth is enough to ward off the chill of the entire world. Regret. What do I have to regret? I grew up with Rudolph as neighbors, wearing split pants together since childhood. He's 2 years older than me and has always protected me since we were little. Anyone who dared to bully me, he'd be the first to rush into a fight. Everyone said Angela was Rudolph's most treasured possession, untouchable. I thought we'd stay like this forever, from school uniforms to wedding gowns, until Betty appeared. She was Rudolph's senior graduate student, a gentle and intellectual woman. She began appearing frequently around Rudolph under the pretext of academic exchange. They studied together in the library, worked on projects together, attended academic forums together. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Rudolph has never lacked outstanding women around him, but in his eyes, there's only me. I have complete confidence in him. The first time I felt uneasy was at a friend's gathering. We were playing Truth or Dare. Betty lost and chose Dare. The challenge is to reveal a secret about someone present. Her gaze swept across the group before finally settling on me, her face full of apology. "Angela, sorry, but I'm going to tell your secret now," she said with a laugh, her tone utterly innocent. "I accidentally saw last time. Angela's phone wallpaper was a photo with a guy. That guy was so handsome. I wonder who he is." All eyes in the room instantly focused on me. Some also turned toward Rudolph. Rudolph's smile faded from his face. "It's my cousin," I quickly explained. "He passed away 2 years ago. That was the only photo I had with him." "Oh, I'm so sorry," Betty hurriedly apologized. "I didn't know that was the case. I really didn't mean to." She looked utterly remorseful. Everyone quickly stepped in to smooth things over, and the matter was considered settled. But that night when they got home, Rudolph still brought it up. "Your cousin, how come I've never heard you mention him before? He's always been in poor health, spending years abroad for treatment, so of course you've never met him." I handed him my phone to look. In the photo, a young boy leaned against the hospital bed, his face pale but his smile gentle. I stood beside him, grinning like an idiot. "You see, we do look somewhat alike." Rudolph stared for a long time before finally handing the phone back to me. "Yeah, there is a resemblance." He pretended to believe it, but I could sense a seed of doubt had been planted in his mind. Ever since then, Betty would always casually bring me up in front of Rudolph. "Rudolph, Angela has such a great personality and so many friends, unlike me with my small social circle." "Rudolph, I saw Angela watching a movie with a guy yesterday. She's so popular." "Rudolph, isn't Angela about to graduate? She loves having fun so much. Do you think she can adjust to a 9-to-5 job? She never directly speaks ill of me. Every word is praise, yet each one seems to imply something. Hinting that I have too many friends of the opposite sex, hinting that I'm frivolous, hinting that I'm not steady enough." Rudolph started becoming suspicious and jealous. We had our first intense argument over this. The cause was an academic dinner party. Rudolph insisted on taking me along. At the dinner, I ran into a senior colleague who had mentored me at my internship company, so we chatted a bit longer. Rudolph immediately turned cold and left me alone in the banquet hall, walking out by himself. I chased after him and found him in the parking lot. "Rudolph, what madness has taken you now?" "Madness," he sneered. "Angela, did you ever consider my feelings when you were happily chatting with another man right in front of me?" "That's my senior colleague. We were discussing work." "Does discussing work require laughing so happily?" he roared, looking at his face twisted with jealousy. I found it both unfamiliar and exhausting. "You're completely unreasonable." "I'm being unreasonable." He grabbed my wrist. "Do you think I'm too strict with you? Do you think I'm not as gentle and considerate as your dead cousin?" He actually brought up my cousin again. I trembled with rage. "Rudolph, you bastard." I shook off his hand and ran away crying. That time, we gave each other the silent treatment for a long while. I thought our relationship had developed cracks, Little did I know, that was only the beginning of the breakup. Rudolf had been in a Cold War for a week. He didn't contact me. And I didn't reach out to him either. Every time we fought before, it would take at most 3 days for him to swallow his pride and come to coax me. This time, he didn't. I was holding back my anger, but with the engagement banquet approaching, I thought he would surely come to me. The night before the engagement banquet, I received a message from Betty. It was a photo. In the photo, Rudolf was drunk, leaning on her shoulder, fast asleep. Betty rested her head slightly against him, a triumphant smile playing at the corners of her lips. Beneath the photo was a line of text: "His heart is full of bitterness. You should be more understanding of him." I stared at the photo, feeling unsettled, but I still comforted myself, thinking he was just drunk. Betty was merely looking after him. On the day of the engagement party, I dressed up beautifully, wanting to surprise him and take the initiative to reconcile. I found him in the lounge. He was wearing a suit that matched mine. So handsome it was hard to look away. When he saw me, his eyes flickered with hesitation. "Rudolf," I stepped forward proactively, reaching to take his hand. "Let's stop fighting." "Okay," but he jerked his hand away as if electrocuted. The force was so strong it made me stagger, nearly falling. I stared at him in disbelief. The guests were filing in, and the MC was already prepared on stage. We, as the main characters, stepped to the front of the stage. The spotlight shone on us. I forced a smile, trying to maintain a facade of peace. Rudolf couldn't even be bothered to pretend. He maintained an icy expression throughout, refusing to so much as glance in my direction. When the officiant invited us to exchange rings, the final blow came. He shook off my hand yet again, in front of all the guests. He questioned me with icy eyes, using me as a substitute. "Was that fun for you?" The entire hall erupted in uproar. My mind buzzed, completely stunned. "Rudolf, what are you talking about? You know perfectly well what I'm talking about, don't you?" He sneered as he pulled a letter from his suit pocket. The stationery was pink and scented, clearly meant for a girl's use. "What's this?" I asked. "This is the love letter you wrote to your so-called first love," he roared angrily. "Betty found this in my study." He unfolded the letter and read it aloud before everyone. Those ambiguous and nauseating words, spoken from his mouth, were like knives cutting into my heart. "It wasn't me," I flusteredly explained. "I didn't write this." "You didn't write it." Rudolf smiled cruelly. "Handwriting can be forged, but the perfume on this letter paper is exactly the same as what you wear. Angela, how much longer are you going to keep up this act?" I was stunned by this sudden slander and humiliation. I looked across the room, my parents' shocked expressions, the Maximilian family's livid faces, and the guests' contemptuous or pitying gazes. I felt like a complete joke. Rudolf finished reading the letter, then crumpled the paper violently and threw it in my face. Then he took out the engagement ring that should have been on my finger and slammed it onto the ground. "May you and your white moonlight have a happy union for 100 years, he enunciated each word with crystal clarity. With that, he pulled Betty, who was pretending to mediate but couldn't hide the glee in her eyes, and resolutely walked away under the crowd's sympathetic gazes. At that moment, my world came crashing down. The farce of the engagement banquet made me the laughingstock of the entire City T social circle. Everyone says I'm a fickle and promiscuous woman, stringing along the Maximilian family's heir while still entangled with my first love. The gossip and rumors engulf me like a tidal wave. The Maximilian family offered no explanation, letting the rumors spread unchecked. I became that gold-digging woman who would stop at nothing to climb into high society, only to reap what I had sown. I was completely disillusioned with the Maximilian family. With Rudolf, I didn't offer a single word of explanation. Because I knew, to someone who no longer trusted me, nothing I said would be believed. I deleted all contact information, deactivated my social media accounts, and alone, bought a one-way ticket to leave City T. This city where I lived for 20 years holds not a single thing worth my nostalgia. Kara probably told Rudolf that I was already married with children. My phone started getting bombarded by all sorts of unfamiliar numbers. Some were local, others were from City T. Calls and text messages kept coming non-stop. I ignored them all and blocked every single one. He seemed to be pushed to his limit. A few days later, just as I stepped out of the company building, someone blocked my path. It was Rudolf. 5 years had passed, and the youthful innocence had faded from him, replaced by a more mature and handsome demeanor. Yet, a heavy air of hostility lingered between his brows. He stared at me with bloodshot eyes, his gaze unrelenting. "Why didn't you answer my calls?" His voice was hoarse, as if he hadn't rested properly in ages. I remained silent and tried to step around him. He grabbed my arm with such force it felt like he was trying to crush my bones. "Angela, I'm talking to you," he roared. His grip hurt me, making me wince. "We're done, let go of me." My aloofness and indifference completely infuriated him. He questioned me frantically. "It doesn't matter, you say that so lightly. You disappeared without a word for 5 years. And now you're marrying someone else with a child. What do you take me for?" His questioning sounded utterly ridiculous to me. "You'd rather marry some nobody who came out of nowhere than come back and give me one word of explanation." He stared at me with bloodshot eyes, like an abandoned, cornered beast. "Angela, did you never love me at all?" He asked me if I loved him, after humiliating me in front of everyone with a forged letter, after letting rumors destroy me while he turned a blind eye. After Betty and he had been inseparable, living it up for 5 years, he came running to confront me, demanding to know why I didn't love him. I looked at his pained expression and felt nothing inside, even finding it somewhat ironic. The one who should really be asking that question is me, the person who once stood on that stage, mocked by thousands, utterly alone. "Rudolph, did you ever love me? If you truly loved me, how could you choose to believe an outsider over our 20 years of shared feelings?" I stared coldly at Rudolph. "Mr. Maximilian, please let go." My polite yet distant address made him shudder violently. "Mr. Maximilian," he murmured to himself, then seemed stung by something, his emotions growing more agitated. "What did you call me?" "Angela." "Say it again." The grip on my wrist tightened further. "You owe me an explanation. There's nothing to explain between us." I coldly tried to shake off his hand, but failed. His grip was too strong. As we were tugging at each other, a sweet, childish voice came through. "Mama." I turned around and saw my son running out through the company's front door, like a joyful little butterfly. He spread his arms and flew toward me. In his hand was a freshly drawn picture, with 3 little figures holding hands, colored in crayon. "Mom, look, this is you, Dad, and me." I instantly broke free from Rudolph's grip and knelt down to embrace my son. "Toby, why did you come out? Dad said you were off work and asked me to pick you up." I looked up and saw Malcolm standing not far away. He was smiling as he watched us, mother and son. Meanwhile, Rudolph beside me seemed thunderstruck the moment he saw my son appear. He froze completely, his face turning deathly pale in an instant. His gaze was fixed intently on the child in my arms. His lips trembling but unable to utter a single word, Malcolm walked over, naturally took our son from my arms, and then pulled me behind him. He looked at Rudolph, his eyes calm yet powerful. "Sir, is there something you need?" Rudolph seemed to snap back to reality, shifting his gaze from the child to Malcolm's face, before finally settling on me. His eyes held shock, pain, and disbelief. He stared at the scene in agony, muttering to himself, "The child, you already have a child." His voice was so soft, yet filled with despair. Watching his devastated expression, I felt no satisfaction, only a barren calm. "Yes, I have a child. When I was abandoned by him, misunderstood by the whole world, at my most wretched moment, I met Malcolm. He pulled me out of the mire, he gave me a home. He made me believe again that love is not about possession and jealousy, but about trust and protection. Rudolph, what you see now is the happiness I've fought for with all my strength, and you. I've long since excluded you from my life." Rudolph seemed to go mad, suddenly stepping forward as if to grab me. "Angela, tell me this isn't true." Before his hand could reach me, Malcolm intercepted it. Malcolm stood a full half head taller, his frame more imposing. He simply stood there calmly, forming an insurmountable barrier. "Mr. Maximilian, is it?" Malcolm's tone was polite, but laced with unmistakable warning. "Please don't disturb my wife and child." "My wife, my child," 6 words, each one piercing the heart. Rudolph's face grew even paler. He looked at me, his eyes carrying a trace of humble pleading. "Angela, give me 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, let's talk alone." "Okay." He lowered his stance, his voice tinged with pleading. 5 years ago, I might have softened, but now, I just find it laughable. I refused outright. "No need, Mr. Maximilian, we have nothing to discuss." With that, I took the initiative to link arms with Malcolm and leaned against him. "Honey, let's go home. Toby must be hungry by now." Malcolm gave me a gentle smile and nodded. "Okay." Holding our son in his arms while I held on to his, our family of 3 turned and walked away. Without casting Rudolph so much as a glance, I could feel that scorching, agonizing gaze from behind, almost burning holes through my retreating figure. I deliberately spoke to Malcolm, my voice not loud but clear enough for him to hear. "Honey, how about sweet and sour pork ribs for dinner? Toby loves them the most." "Sure," I just bought fresh ribs this afternoon. I'll make them for you and our son as soon as we get home. Dad is the best. Toby cheered happily in my arms. The cheerful conversation of our family of three pierced Rudolph's heart like sharp blades. I heard a dull thud behind me. I didn't turn back, but I knew he must have broken down completely. That once lofty and arrogant heir of the Maximilian family now crouched on the ground like an abandoned dog, utterly humiliated. At last he realized I had truly begun a new life, a completely new life without him, and he, with his ridiculous pride and suspicion, had become nothing but a joke. Rudolph wasn't about to let it go. He found out my address. That night, it was pouring rain. I was coming home from overtime work when I spotted that familiar figure just as I reached the building entrance. He stood at the entrance of the building unit, not bothering with an umbrella, letting the icy rain soak him completely. Under the streetlight, he looked as wretched as a homeless vagrant. When he saw me, he immediately rushed over and blocked my path. "Angela, do you have to treat me like this?" His eyes were bloodshot, reeking of alcohol. "What exactly did I do wrong? Why are you torturing me like this?" He made me laugh in exasperation. "Rudolph, what right do you have to question me now? Not a single day has passed in these 5 years when I've forgotten you," he roared in agony. "I've been waiting for you to come back, and you turned around and married someone else. How could you be so heartless?" Rainwater streamed down his hair, mingling with the tears in his eyes. This tender look, if seen by people like Kara, would probably move them to tears again. But I only felt disgust. I provoked his anger. And the resentment and grievances he had accumulated for 5 years finally erupted at this moment. "That letter, how dare you say you didn't write it? That man, how dare you claim you don't know him? Why won't you explain? Even if you'd just come back and said one soft word to me, I would have believed you." The chill of the rainy night paled in comparison to the coldness in his words. At last, he had succeeded in angering me. "Explain." I let out a self-deprecating laugh. "Did I give you a chance to explain, Rudolph?" I looked at him and told him the truth word by word. "That letter, I never wrote it. The contents inside are completely unknown to me. The white moonlight you mentioned, that man in my phone, is my own cousin." My voice trembled in the rain. He had heart disease since childhood, and at 20 years old, he couldn't hold on. He passed away from cancer. I went back to my hometown for his funeral and didn't bring my phone with me. And you called countless times to demand why I wasn't answering, to accuse me of fooling around with some other man. Rudolph's face instantly turned deathly pale. After that farce of an engagement banquet, I fell seriously ill and was hospitalized for half a month. I tried to contact you, to explain everything clearly, but I discovered you'd already blocked me. After I was discharged from the hospital, I went to your company to find you. But what did I see? I saw you and Betty laughing and chatting as you walked out of the building, her arm intimately linked with yours, and you didn't refuse. That moment was when I completely gave up. I raised my head and met his shocked and remorseful gaze. I retorted, "Did you ever give me a chance to explain, Rudolph? You'd rather believe fabricated evidence from an outsider than our 20 years of love. What do I even mean to you in your heart?" My words struck Rudolph like bolts of heavenly thunder. He stood frozen in place, thunderstruck, unable to believe what he had just heard. "No, it can't be." Staggering back in shock, he tripped over the steps behind him and fell gracelessly into the icy rainwater. "Cousin, passed away." He clutched his hair in agony, his entire body trembling. "That letter." He raised his head, his face filled with remorse and anguish. "It was Betty who gave me the letter." He began to recall with anguish. "She said she found it by accident in my study, and that she took the risk of telling me because she feared I was being deceived by you. She whispered in my ear that you had long since changed your heart, that you had too many friends of the opposite sex, and that you were utterly unworthy of being the daughter-in-law of the Maximilian family. I was blinded by jealousy and insecurity at that time." He looked at me, his voice filled with desperate pleading. "I was so terrified of losing you that I lost all reason." I stared at him coldly, without a trace of sympathy. "So, is this your reason for humiliating me in public?" He finally revealed his ridiculous truth. "I regretted it the day after the engagement banquet." He closed his eyes in agony. "I left you there and walked away, then spent the whole night drinking alone at the bar. When I sobered up, I knew I'd done wrong. I was too impulsive. I hurt you. But I couldn't bring myself to apologize." He laughed at himself bitterly. "I thought you would come to comfort me in the end. No matter how much I acted up, just like before, I was waiting for you. I kept waiting for you to come find me. But what I waited for was the news of your complete disappearance." He opened his eyes, his blood-red pupils filled with mad obsession. "I resent your cruelty. Yet I'm madly missing you at the same time. I'm only with Betty to spite you. I want you to know I can live perfectly well without you," he explained hysterically. "Nothing ever happened between us. We're only a couple in name. You're the only one in my heart." What an absurd reason. What a ridiculous tantrum. Because of his pride that couldn't admit defeat. Because of his childish tantrum. Because of his foolish suspicion. Add to that Betty's careful scheming. Our 20 years of affection have turned into nothing but a complete tragedy. As I watched this man weeping bitterly before me, all I felt was estrangement. Between us, in the end, we missed our chance. Rudolph collapsed. He knelt in the rain, clutching my legs, weeping and apologizing profusely. "Angela, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Can you forgive me? Let's start over. I'll cut ties with Betty immediately. I'll destroy everything she has, to avenge you. Let's go back to how we were before, okay?" I calmly pushed his hand away. The rain soaked my hair and clothes. It was freezing. But in my heart, I felt calmer than ever. "It's too late, Rudolph." I looked down at him from above. My life has already turned the page. His sobbing stopped abruptly as he stared at me in despair. "I'm making things clear today not to make you feel remorse, and certainly not to incite you to seek revenge against anyone. I just want justice for my lost youth, and for my deceased cousin. From now on, please don't disturb me or my family's life again. This is my only request of him." With that, I stopped looking at him and turned to enter the apartment building. Behind me, his heart-wrenching cries echoed. Later, I heard some things about him. After returning, he truly went mad with revenge against Betty. He utilized the Maximilian family's influence to ruin her reputation in academia, stripping her of everything, but he himself was utterly destroyed as well. He began spending his days in the company of alcohol, neglecting his career. The Maximilian family's company stock plummeted. He once even approached Malcolm, offering an exorbitant sum to make Malcolm leave me. He was Malcolm punched out with a single blow, who warned him that if he dared harass us again, he'd regret ever being born. After that, he never showed his face again. Several years later, on a sunny morning, I was taking my son to school. Through the glass window of the cafe across from the school gate, I spotted a familiar yet disheveled figure. It was Rudolph. He had lost a lot of weight, with a stubbly beard, sitting blankly by the window, holding a cup of coffee. His gaze was fixed motionlessly on me and our son. I didn't stop. At that moment, Malcolm's car pulled up by the roadside. He got out of the car and walked toward us, a gentle smile on his face. He naturally took the school bag from my hand and held my other hand in his. "Let's go." After dropping off Toby, "We'll catch a movie." "Great," I replied with a smile. The three of us, hand in hand, walked laughing into the sunlight. That figure in the cafe was just an old scene I passed by in my life, until a week later, I received an unexpected phone call. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar City T number. I was about to hang up, but as if possessed, I pressed answer. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice came through the phone. "Angela, it's Auntie Pay." It was Mrs. Maximilian. The woman who had once treated me like her own daughter, yet when I needed support the most, used the gentlest tone to advise me to behave properly. My heart sank instantly. "Can I help you?" My voice betrayed no emotion. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds, as if she hadn't expected such a cold response from me. "Angela, can we meet?" Her voice carried a barely perceptible note of weariness and caution. I instinctively wanted to refuse. "I don't want to have anything to do with the Maximilian family ever again," but her next words made me change my mind. "I know we wronged you back then," she sighed softly. "I don't mean anything else. I just want to apologize to you in person." "Apologize?" I was somewhat surprised. From what I know of her, she's someone who values face and family honor above all else. For her to lower her head and apologize, something truly extraordinary must have happened. I remained silent for a moment before finally agreeing. "All right, you set the time and place. I think it's time to make a clean break with the past." We arranged to meet at a tea house near my company, a quiet place perfect for conversation. When I arrived, she was already there. Years apart had left their mark even on her well-maintained face. Traces of weariness were unmistakable. The once meticulously styled hair now showed strands of silver at the temples. When she saw me, she forced a smile and stood up. "Angela, you're here." I nodded and sat down across from her. "Mrs. Maximilian, if you have something to tell me, just say it directly." I got straight to the point. My directness and aloofness made the smile on her face freeze for a moment. She poured me a cup of tea, her demeanor noticeably humble. "Angela, I know you must resent me deeply in your heart." She didn't look at me, just kept her eyes lowered at the teacup before her. Back then, I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened to Betty's one-sided words, shouldn't have said those things to hurt you. I've always treated you like my own daughter. But when it came to Rudolph, I admit, I acted out of selfishness. She raised her head, her eyes actually glistening with tears. I was afraid he'd be blinded by emotions and ruin his career. I thought someone with Betty's steady temperament would make a better daughter-in-law for the Maximilian family. I was blind, and I wronged you, as she spoke. She actually stood up, intending to bow to me. I didn't move, just watched her calmly. There's no need for that. I didn't accept her apology, because I knew her apology wasn't sincere. Sure enough, after a tearful confession, she finally revealed her true purpose. Rudolph, his dying. Her voice choked with sobs as tears fell. Ever since learning the truth from back then, he's shut himself away, refusing to see anyone, drinking all day long. He's completely neglected the company. And the board is furious. A few days ago, he drank until he had a stomach hemorrhage and was hospitalized. He almost didn't make it. She wiped her tears with a handkerchief, her face filled with sorrow. The doctor said it's a sickness of the heart. His mind is consumed by regret. And he keeps calling out your name. Wasn't all of this their own doing? Angela, I beg you. She suddenly grabbed my hand, her icy fingers trembling slightly from the force. Go see him, won't you? Go talk some sense into him. You're the only knot in his heart, only you can save him. If you'd just forgive him, he'd do anything you ask. I watched her tearful, pleading face and could only feel the irony. 5 years ago, she urged me to leave her son because I was too restless. 5 years later, she came begging me to return to him, because only I could save him. In their eyes, what exactly am I, Angela, to them? Is it an object that comes at your beck and call, slowly, one by one? I pried open her fingers. Mrs. Maximilian. I looked into her eyes and spoke clearly, word by word. First, I've been married for a long time and have my own family and children. I'm very happy. I would never hurt my husband and children for anyone. Second, Rudolph's current fate isn't because of me, but due to his own stupidity, jealousy, and irresponsibility. The ones who caused this tragedy are himself and your Maximilian family. Third, whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with me. I'm not a savior, nor do I have any obligation to save someone who once hurt me deeply. So please, don't bother me again in the future. With that, I stood up and walked away without giving her another glance. As I reached the door, I heard her desperate cries behind me. I didn't turn back. The tragedy of the Maximilian family was sealed the moment they chose profit and schemes over trust and affection. As for me, I had long since found rebirth in my own world. Story 2. With my curvaceous figure and heart-shaped face, I'm famously known as the most glamorous femme fatale in the entertainment industry. Yet after 5 years in this circle, no one dared to proposition me because everyone knew I was backed by the crown prince of elite circles. After 7 years together, I thought we'd get married. Who knew that on my 28th birthday, I'd overhear him telling his friends with a laugh, Blanche is fun to play with, but I've got someone else in mind for marriage. I took back a heart, just as he wished, seeking only wealth, not the person. Cain wasn't used to it, staring at me intently. Apart from the villa, don't you want anything else? I exclaimed in delight. You mean I can also ask for a Rolls-Royce? Cain got out of bed with a dark expression, putting on his clothes with his back to me, still bearing the marks I left. From getting dressed to leaving the house, he didn't say another word to me. I watched his retreating figure in confusion, unsure why he had suddenly become so angry. Could it be that he thinks I'm too greedy? Well, it's true, contentment brings happiness. I hesitated for a few minutes between calling him to apologize or not bothering him, ultimately choosing to put down my phone. A sensible lover shouldn't interfere too much in their patron's private life. It's an easy way to become a nuisance. Barefoot, I walked to the living room where several Hermes bags were placed on the sofa. They were Cain's purchases from his business trip to France, exclusive editions not available here. I picked out only my favorite one, took photos of the others, and sent them to the contact labeled Bag Recycling. With the note, brand new with receipt, she quickly sent me a price quote. My eyes lit up. While I couldn't afford a Rolls-Royce Phantom, the basic model was definitely within reach. I don't have a habit of collecting designer bags. To me, they're no different from Temu bags that cost a few dozen yuan each. Unless it's a special occasion where I need to show off, I wouldn't carry them out. Cain insists on gifting them, having the latest models delivered every year, and occasionally bringing some back from his business trips abroad. This year, what he gave me was converted into cash, lying in my bank account earning interest. At least they're being put to better use than gathering dust. I put the bags away and went to sleep contentedly. I slept soundly all night, completely unconcerned about where Kane had gone. Early the next morning, I received a call from my best friend. Dana swallowed hard and cautiously asked me, "Did you break up with Kane?" Still half asleep, I mumbled, "No, why would you ask that? Check the trending topics." I groggily opened Twitter. The top trending topic was Kane and the only daughter of the Asia-Pacific CEO of an international auction house, Grace, are about to tie the knot. The accompanying photo was also exceptionally artistic. Dominic's estate, the two stood by the lakeside. Grace draped in Kane's grey suit jacket, tilting her head as she gazed at him with a radiant smile. Kane revealed only half his face, his captivating phoenix eyes slightly lowered, though unclear. Onlookers could easily imagine the tenderness in his gaze. I marveled whoever took this photo was truly a genius. Young master vs the Asia-Pacific CEO's daughter of an international auction house. This is exactly that powerhouse coupling energy we crave, so satisfying, as expected. Cinderella marrying into wealth only exists in fairy tales. In real life, it's all about matching social status. Didn't the gossip say Blanche is backed by the crown prince of Beijing's elite circle? So who's the mistress here? It must be Blanche, an actress with no acting skills, no family background, and nothing to offer but her face. How could she possibly be accepted into Dominic's family? Then we can't call her Blanche anymore, she should be called Mistress Song. I was lost in thought. Scrolling through comment after comment, Dana kept calling my name. Blanche, Blanche. I finally snapped out of it and responded with a faint hum. Lowering her voice, she cautiously asked, "Blanche, are you very upset?" I curled a smile. Sad? Why should I be sad? And what right do I have to be sad? In my junior year, I went to Country M as an exchange student. At an international students' gathering, I met Kane. Even among international students, there's a hierarchy. He belonged to the top tier, surrounded by admirers, the center of attention, with even the gathering venue being his penthouse apartment. And I was the unlucky one pushed into the pool by a rejected suitor who turned spiteful when his advances failed. My bikini torn off in the struggle, hunched in the corner, I endured the stares, burning with anger, humiliation, and the desperate wish to drown myself in shame. They whispered whether I'd staged it, a scholarship student scheming to climb the social ladder with tears and curves. Kane descended like a god, draping a robe over me before bending down to murmur, "Go clean up in the restroom." I looked at his face and suddenly felt my heart racing. The thunderous pounding of my heart, I could hear it myself, and I wondered if he could hear it too. I tightened my bathrobe around me and whispered, "Thank you." I hurried into the bathroom and changed my clothes. When I came out, I saw the person who had pushed me into the pool and yanked off my bikini laughing and chatting in the crowd. I rushed over, grabbed his hair, and shoved his head underwater, forcing him to go from stubborn cursing to begging for mercy, and finally to sobbing uncontrollably, repeatedly crying out, "Spare me." In the end, I yanked off his swim trunks and flung them away with all my might. When I let him go, he didn't even dare to look at me. Scrambling off in disgrace to find his swim trunks, I raised my chin proudly, like a victor. Turning my head, I met Kane's expression of rapt fascination. My mind went blank instantly. Oh no, would he think I'm too fierce? Later, Kane said what he loved most was how I proudly held that person's head underwater, like a proud peacock. It was him who started it between us. He was the one who pursued me passionately, confessed his love, and proclaimed my status to the whole world. Even after I entered the entertainment industry, he cleared obstacles for me, bent down to serve as my stepping ladder, helping me climb step by step. Yet, it was also him who personally severed my delusions, half a year ago on my 28th birthday. He made arrangements to celebrate for me, promising it would be the most grand birthday I'd ever have. This year marks the 7th year of our relationship. I thought he would propose to me, so I couldn't contain my anticipation and wanted to sneak a peek. But then I overheard his conversation with a few friends. "Kane, you're being so attentive to Blanche. Are you planning to propose?" Kane, dressed in a tailored white suit like a noble prince stepping out of a medieval castle, uttered words that instantly chilled my heart. "Blanche is beautiful, sure, but she's just for fun. As for marriage, I have someone else in mind. Is it the eldest daughter of the Ming family?" He scoffed. "Who else but you would know? So after you get married, are you going to break up with Blanche?" Being faithful in marriage is basic respect for your partner. His friend gasped. "Blanche will be devastated when the time comes. She loves you so much." Love, it's just mutual benefit. Suddenly, the man's eyes lit up, putting everything else aside. Blanche is truly stunning. Among all the beauties in the entertainment industry, her beauty stands in a league of its own. After you break up, can I take Blanche under my wing? Kane shot him a chilling glance. They seemed to continue talking, but I couldn't bear to listen anymore. He said our 7 years together were just about mutual benefit. I stepped back bit by bit, hiding in a deserted corner, and cried for half an hour until my makeup was ruined. In the end, I reapplied my makeup, changed into an evening gown, and attended the birthday party he threw for me as if nothing had happened. Fireworks bloomed in the sky for half an hour, but all I could see were 4 words: mutual exploitation. Afterward, I kept reminding myself, never invest your heart again. I thought I couldn't do it, but I discovered that human potential is limitless. I gradually detached myself from this relationship, managing to seek only wealth rather than affection. In that case, one shouldn't try to have it both ways. I smiled and said to Dana on the other end of the phone, "It's not what you think between me and Kane. You don't need to worry about me." When I refreshed the page again, the trending topic along with the photos had disappeared. I knew the Dominic family had intervened. However, if there wasn't any truth to it, who would dare fabricate rumors about Kane's marriage? This shows he's indeed about to have good news coming his way. No wonder he left in such a hurry last night. Turns out he's getting married soon, probably thinking of saving money for his wife-to-be. Unwilling to gift me this villa, I sighed and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, taking in the magnificent view one last time, reluctantly bidding farewell to this 9-figure luxury villa. In the following days, Kane neither contacted me nor returned. I know, this is waiting for me to leave on my own. In these past few days, I sold the remaining designer bags and finally packed my few belongings into just one suitcase. Dragging the suitcase downstairs, Elsa asked me, "Miss, going off to film again?" I smiled and nodded. "Yes, Elsa, goodbye. That life of having clothes handed to you and meals served to your mouth is gone forever. I bought a house years ago, though it can't compare to YS Residence. It's still spacious and tidy. I don't have much work, sleeping at home every day without knowing what the sun looks like. Claiming it's to heal the heartbreak of being abandoned by my sugar daddy, Dana worried I might do something drastic, visiting me every other day, seeing me eat and drink well. She got ideas and dragged me to a very private bar. Getting into the car, she raised an eyebrow at me. Top-notch quality. An hour later, a variety of handsome men in uniforms walked in. I finally understood what she meant by that remark. A headache coming on. I had them all leave. "What are you doing?" "Just for fun," she said with a wink. "Don't worry, this place is very discreet. Lots of people from the industry come here to play, and it's just drinking together, nothing more." I sighed helplessly. "Really, there's no need. The two of us can just share a drink." Dana stiffened her expression, her eyes scanning me from head to toe like x-rays. It sent chills down my spine. "Dana, you're not thinking of staying with Kane, are you? All these years he never thought to marry you. And now he's turning around to marry someone else for an alliance. Blanche, I wouldn't blame you for being the other woman. But you're a celebrity. If this gets exposed, it's no joke." I felt both touched and amused. The reason she didn't want me to be the other woman was her fear of me getting cyberbullied. I hadn't told her about Kanes and my actual relationship. It would have just been one more person upset over it. Now that it's all over, I decided to come clean completely. Dana gritted her teeth. "That scumbag, just because he's powerful and influential, does that make it okay? Isn't this just deceiving someone's body and heart under the guise of a relationship?" "Don't say that, you're still defending him. I'm not losing out. Kane is handsome, rarely involved in scandals, and generous. He hasn't mistreated me in the slightest these years." Dana tilted her head and laughed. "True, someone like Kane would be hard to sleep with even if you paid. You've got the right attitude, cheers." She had a low alcohol tolerance but loved to drink, and halfway through, she started talking nonsense. "It's better not to get married, boo-hoo." I was impulsive when I agreed to his proposal, and now I'm stuck with him for life. I shook my head. "You must never say that in front of James, or he'll run away from home again." James called me. "Blanche, is Dana with you again?" I'm so glad I didn't listen to Dana's suggestion of drinking with handsome guys, otherwise, wouldn't that have started World War III? Half an hour later, James came to pick up Dana, his face darker than a shoe sole. Yet he politely insisted on driving me home first. I didn't want to be a third wheel, so I declined. I drove here myself and had already called a designated driver. Just as I stepped out of the private room, I bumped into one of Kane's friends. He grabbed my hand. "Sis-in-law, are you here to pick up Kane? Have you two been fighting these days? Kane has been sulking all day long, dragging us out to drink every night. You two should make up soon, or I'll drink myself into a stomach hemorrhage." He didn't even give me a chance to speak, pulling me straight into their private room. "Sis-in-law is here." Several faces from my birthday party were in the private room. No matter how they talk about me behind my back, they're all smiles and warmth to my face. Sis-in-law, when you fight with Kane, us little ghosts suffer the consequences. Yeah, can't we talk things out properly? I've been drinking with Kane every day, and my girlfriend's been giving me hell for it. Kane leaned back on the sofa, his brows slightly furrowed and eyes closed, looking utterly exhausted. He's always been well behaved when drunk, docile in a way that's unlike him, completely pliant. I leaned in close to him and softly called his name. Kane, should we go back? The heavy scent of alcohol clung to him as he mumbled, I doubted he even knew who I was. With most of his weight pressed against me, those so-called friends just sat there. Not one of them showing any intention to help. Damn it, gritting my teeth, I dragged him outside. As we reached the doorway, Kane's forehead brushed against my face, my body stiffened, and just as I was about to pull away, I heard him say, "Grace." I stopped, a wave of exhaustion washing over me from within. Kane's phone rang. I fished it out from his pocket. "Grace." I stared at it for a long while, and when she called for the second time, I answered. Grace said, "Kane, I want to go to the art exhibition tomorrow. Will you come with me, please?" I lowered my voice. "Ms. Grace, Mr. Kane is drunk. Could you come pick him up?" She paused, then asked leisurely, "Where?" I gave her the address. After hanging up the phone, I put it back and helped him lean against the roadside railing. The dim light spilled over his face without a single flaw, undoubtedly a face blessed by nature. They must have been dating these past few days. Right, Kane, where would he take her? What would they do? Nothing I do concerns you, does it? A black Mercedes parked by the roadside. Grace stepped out and stood gracefully before me. "Blanche. Hello there, just hand Kane over to me." Together with her, we placed Kane into the car. Grace acted as if unaware of my relationship with Kane. Her demeanor natural. "Would you like me to drive you back?" "No need, I've called a designated driver." She smiled faintly. "That's good, Ms. Blanche, I know about you and Kane, but we're really about to get engaged. Kane might be too sentimental to say it, so I'll say it for him. I don't mind your past, but it's best not to keep in touch from now on, to avoid misunderstandings. It wouldn't be good for either of us." Grace was composed, while I stood before her with my head bowed, making her seem like the bright moon in the sky, and me just an insignificant passing cloud. I let out a soft sigh. "I understand, don't worry." The next day, I was jolted awake by a relentless barrage of phone calls. I answered the call bleary-eyed, not even seeing who it was. "Blanche." Kane's voice seemed to squeeze out each word through gritted teeth, carrying an icy chill. "Well done. Keep that courage of yours." In an instant, my mind cleared, not understanding what he meant. I tried calling back only to find myself blocked. Clutching my phone, I sat there dazed for several minutes. Fine, I simply blocked all his contact information. Since it's over, let's make a clean break, no lingering attachments. Dana invited me to go shopping across the river, but had an emergency at the last minute and stood me up, so I decided to go by myself. I bought several pairs of shoes, replaced my phone, and then stopped by a high-end boutique. This brand's signature is offering only one piece per style per store. Two girls followed me inside, one of them cooing, "Grace, I heard there are new arrivals here. Come shop with me." Yes, the world is vast, yet small. I turned my head and met Grace's surprised gaze, nodding. What a coincidence. Before Grace could say anything, the girl beside her gave me a rather impolite once-over. "Who's this? You look familiar." "Oh, Blanche, Jessie." "That's not polite," Jessie pouted. "I was just joking. She probably wouldn't mind, right?" I laughed it off. She pushed her luck. "Right, with skin as thick as yours you definitely wouldn't mind. After all, no woman with even a shred of decency would do what you do." Span, I'm good-tempered, but not without temper. I stared at her calmly. "Miss, I've been with Kane for 7 years, while Miss Grace has known Kane for less than a year, I suppose. So, what kind of woman am I?" Grace changed her expression slightly. Jessie said angrily, "What are you to compare with my cousin? Kane was just playing with you, but he truly loves my sister." I shrugged. "Congratulations to you then." I ignored them and picked up a red dress. It looked quite nice. Jessie snatched the dress from my hands. "Shop assistant, wrap this up for me." I frowned. "I saw it first," she said righteously. "Did you pay for it? If you haven't paid, how can you say it's yours? Who knows if you can even afford it?" "Fine." I looked at the next item, and she pulled the same trick again. "I'll take that one too." She was doing it on purpose. After that, every time I lingered on any piece for too long, she immediately asked the salesperson to wrap it up. In the end, I walked out of the store empty-handed. Jessie shouted after me, "Oh dear, seems like Kane doesn't treat you that well after all." Otherwise how could you not afford even a single item? I walked into a dessert shop. Half an hour later, the sales assistant from that high-end luxury store sat down across from me. Blanche, long time no see. Thank you for helping me close so many deals today. This meal is on me. Propping my chin on my hand, I replied. We've been old classmates for so many years, this is the least I could do. Lena, my old classmate from 3 years of high school. I only realized she worked there as a sales associate after entering, before we could catch up. Grace and the others came in. 2 years ago, Lena's husband died unexpectedly, leaving her a single mother raising 2 children alone. Every little bit of help counts. I played along and helped her secure over a dozen more sales. Lena feigned anger. Classmates or not, I made quite a commission today. If the big star doesn't give me a chance to treat, I'll really get mad. Just as I was about to speak, a shrill voice cut in. Blanche, you did this on purpose. I sighed inwardly. Lamenting how enemies always cross paths, Jessie stood arm in arm with Grace not far away, her gaze sharp enough to burn right through me. I said leisurely, you snatched everything from my hands, so how does that make it my fault? Jessie stamped her foot. Cousin, she's bullying me. Grace gave me a disapproving look. Ms. Blanche, Jessie is just being childish. You shouldn't stoop to her level. If I recall correctly, Miss Jessie is about the same age as me. Grace frowned as a man wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. What's wrong? People I didn't want to see kept appearing one after another. Kane watched me from afar with icy eyes, as if looking at a stranger. Who upset you? Jessie rattled off a string of exaggerated complaints, then lifted her chin and shot me a contemptuous glare. Kane's gaze fell on Lena's name tag, raising an eyebrow at the secretary beside her. The secretary nodded and walked aside to make a phone call. The next second, Lena's phone rang. She answered it in confusion, but her expression instantly changed as she panicked and said, Manager, what? Why are you firing me? What did I do wrong? After hanging up, she didn't even have time to say much before hurriedly bidding farewell. I sat on the cold chair, but my face burned fiercely. I repeatedly warned myself to treat being with Kane as just a job. One shouldn't invest too much emotion in work. Yet, an overwhelming sense of grievance and sorrow still welled up in my heart. In a flustered state, I grabbed my bag and left, failing to notice Kane staring at my retreating figure. Back home, my agent called. Blanche, did you somehow offend Mr. Kane? My voice was hoarse. What's wrong? They recast the new show. Who? Jessie. I heard she's Grace's cousin. Just entered the entertainment industry and already landed such an important role. I said calmly, I see. The news of my replacement was quickly leaked by marketing accounts, with anti-fans flooding the comments section with mocking remarks. This is what happens when you trade on your looks. Jessie is Grace's cousin. How can Blanche compare? The wealthy are pragmatic, no matter how they play around outside. Their future wives will always matter more. Blanche's good days are over. I don't understand why there's so much hate towards Blanche. Her acting may not be outstanding, but it's definitely not bad, right? Even when she was backed by Kane before, she never stole anyone's leading roles. She's always played supporting parts. Exactly what the above comment said. Blanche isn't picky about roles. She's willing to take on any unlikable character. Just because she played a villainous supporting role in a BL drama when she debuted, is it really worth being hated on for 5 whole years? Playing so many villainous women just proves she's that kind of person. Stop whitewashing for Blanche's fans. He doesn't even look like a decent person. Blanche has the face of a homewrecker. Let's make that clear. Poor folks sympathizing with celebrities making $208 million. Isn't that like a maid pitying her privileged mistress? I closed Twitter to avoid reading these baseless malicious comments. I contacted Kane's secretary, saying I'd wait for him in the company parking lot. Kane usually leaves the office at 7, but it's almost 10 now and he still hasn't come down. I saw right through it. He was trying to put me in my place. At 10 in the evening, the familiar black Maybach's headlights flickered on. I walked over, opened the car door, and got in. Kane was still working on his tablet, completely ignoring my presence. 10 minutes later, he closed his laptop. I broke the silence first. Mr. Kane, Mr. Kane, he curled his lips. Yet the temperature in the car seemed to drop several degrees instantly. Ms. Blanche was so full of pride, wasn't she? What brings you to me? I ignored his taunts and took out a shell necklace, its craftsmanship quite ordinary, with nothing particularly special about it. 5 years ago, Kane gave this to me, saying that no matter when, I could exchange this necklace for a wish. I got a little greedy. Can I have 2 wishes? Kane's gaze fell on the necklace, then shifted to my face. I'm not sure if it's just my imagination, But I actually saw a glimmer of expectation in his eyes. He scoffed, "You're quite greedy, aren't you? What, do you want another Rolls-Royce?" "No," I shook my head. "For my first wish, I want you to let my friend return to work. She's a single mother and really needs this job." Kane's eyes darkened slightly. "And the second one?" After a pause, I said earnestly, "For the second wish, Kane, let's call it quits between us. From now on, you go your way and I'll go mine. Let's not meet again." Kane's tablet emitted a crisp sound as it snapped in half in his hands. The shell hanging on the necklace was the only thing Kane's mother held in her hand before she died. Just the day before, they had gone to the beach together. He picked up the most beautiful seashell he could find and gave it to his mother. The next night, his mother took her own life. Kane clutched the seashell, refusing to eat or drink for 3 days before collapsing in his room. After that day, he turned the seashell into a necklace and wore it around his neck, until 5 years ago, he gave the necklace to me. That year, my mother passed away. I sat by her grave all night until Kane stood before me, covered in the chill of dew. I was surprised. He had been extremely busy during that time, constantly flying between domestic and international destinations, if I remember correctly. He should have been in Country F today. Kane crouched before me, his voice low and weary from endless work, not answering my calls. I shook my head, tired, didn't want to answer. Kane gazed at me quietly, saying nothing more, tilting my head. I stared at the woman's serene smile on the tombstone and suddenly wondered aloud, "Kane, what do you think is the meaning of being alive?" "I think making money is boring. Tomorrow is boring. Today is boring too. Living, it seems, isn't interesting either." Kane gasped, gripping my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. I saw it, the fleeting glimmer in his eyes. "Blanche, don't overthink it." I pressed my lips together and remained silent. He took off the shell necklace and hung it around my neck. Meeting my puzzled gaze, he said calmly, "No matter when, you can use this necklace to make me grant any wish of yours. Blanche, I don't care what meaning others find in living. You must live, you have to live. And think carefully about what wish you want me to fulfill for you." Touching the cold shell, my heart was wrapped in warmth as I whispered, "Okay." I buried my face in his broad chest, the woody fragrance with a hint of fruit lingering at the tip of my nose, bringing a sense of comfort. He patted my back intermittently, as if to soothe me. "Over these 2 years, I've thought countless times about trading the necklace for Kane to marry me." The words reached my lips, only to feel absurd. I got to know him through calculation in the first place. If I make him marry me this way, it would be repaying kindness with enmity. So today, I used the necklace to exchange for our real separation. No more meaningless entanglements. From now on, we'll be strangers, or perhaps just ordinary friends. Kane had an oppressive aura around him, as if brewing a storm. I wasn't afraid, just quietly watching him. He snatched the necklace from my hand, gritting his teeth as he spat, "Get out." I was thrown out of the car, watching the black Maybach speed away. Softly, I whispered goodbye. The next morning, Lena called me excitedly and said, "The boss asked me to come back to work, and even gave me a promotion with a raise." I was genuinely happy for her. "Congratulations." She paused for a moment and said, "Blanche, thank you for helping me. It was my fault to begin with." "Don't say that," Lena sighed. "Neither of us did anything wrong, we were just unlucky." I was moved by her thoughtfulness. She must have guessed something, yet asked nothing. After chatting idly about everything under the sun, we brought up some high school memories. Lena said, "I remember you mentioned in high school that you wanted to be a screenwriter and write scripts. Now you've indeed entered the entertainment industry, but became an actor instead. Things in this world never go exactly as we wish. Still, you're doing quite well now, with no real regrets." "Yes. There was indeed a time when I desperately wanted to become a screenwriter. I even wrote several stage play scripts back in high school. I loved writing true stories, creating tales that never existed, crafting narratives that could make people laugh, cry, or burn with anger." With a nostalgic expression, I replied, "Not necessarily." "What?" I smiled without saying more. After ending the call with her, I dialed my agent. "When does my last endorsement expire?" It was chaotic on her end. After some noise, she answered, "The 5th of next month." "Okay." I walked to the calendar, flipped to the next page, and drew a big circle around the 5th. At the end of the month, Kane proposed to Grace. I arrived at the proposal scene, where fireworks lit up half the sky, illuminating the brilliantly lit cruise ship and the sea of roses beneath the night sky in breathtaking beauty. The proposal news topped the trending charts, staying at #1 all night. The comments section was half filled with blessings, and the other half was my anti-fans gathering for their usual hate. I heard this cruise ship was a gift from the Dominic family to their new daughter-in-law. The world really is one giant XX novel. Handsome guy and beautiful girl, such a perfect match. I'm totally shipping them. With looks like theirs, the young master and miss could easily break into the entertainment industry. Glamour stands no chance against dignified elegance, you know what I mean, right? Blanche is the kind that should only be kept outside, otherwise you might end up wearing a green hat one day. Fireworks went off one after another, but Kane was nowhere to be seen on the terrace. Kane's friend called me and cautiously asked, "Sis, where are you?" I didn't understand why he would call me at a time like this. I tactfully said, "Let's not call each other that casually from now on, it could lead to misunderstandings." He gave an awkward smile. "Blanche, are you on the Starlight?" The Starlight was the name of this cruise ship. I lied. No. A loud bang came from over there, followed by the sound of a door being violently kicked open. This is bad. The call was disconnected. Kane appeared on the terrace. And the marriage proposal officially began. He knelt on one knee, slipping the ring onto Grace's finger. I stood close enough to clearly see the glistening tears at the corners of Grace's eyes. How wonderful that lovers finally unite in marriage. On July 5th, I announced on Twitter that I would no longer be acting. Twitter had barely been posted when it instantly became a trending topic. The explosive boom that followed marked a new peak in my popularity. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is the first time I've heard someone describe having no acting gigs in such a refined and elegant way. Zero losses for the entertainment industry. Stop playing this game of repeatedly entering and exiting showbiz. What's more evident is fans' reluctance to part and their well wishes. The most important thing is to live your life well while waiting for your return. Sis, don't forget we're here loving and supporting you. Don't pay attention to the gossip out there. You're the best in your fans' eyes, Blanche. I ignore the hate comments, giving likes to my fans as a way to show greater appreciation for their support. The next day, I boarded a plane to Country M. 2 months ago, I received the admission letter from Nanjing University's screenwriting program. 6 months ago, I came across a trending question. If you achieved financial freedom right now, what would be the first thing you'd do? Before clicking, I expected answers like traveling the world or buying luxury houses and cars. Unexpectedly, the most upvoted comment turned out to be, when choosing what to study, don't consider employment prospects, just pursue the major you truly love. I was going through the darkest period of my life then. The person I liked was just toying with me, never considering marriage. My acting skills weren't recognized, and no matter what I did, it seemed I only received negative feedback, apart from money. I seemed to have nothing. This comment lit a lamp for me, rekindling long-lost passion and fervor. I want to continue studying, to pursue the best screenwriting program, without worrying about the outcome or whether I'll succeed. I have the ability to allow myself room for mistakes. I get. Stepping onto the unfamiliar soil of Country M, I still didn't feel quite grounded. It wasn't until I moved into my new home and gradually arranged it to my liking that I truly felt my feet touch solid ground. I got a new phone number, created a new WeChat account, and began a completely new life. After being abroad for half a month, Dana called to vent. Has Kane lost his mind? He's engaged yet keeps pestering me for news about you every day. So annoying. Be careful, I think that guy's gone crazy. I didn't take it seriously. Kane has strong control issues and dislikes when things get out of hand. Perhaps he felt a bit annoyed by my sudden departure. But then, I meant nothing to him. He'd probably forget about me soon enough. Another month passed, and I was discussing coursework with a few classmates at home. An unfamiliar international call came through, and I stepped onto the balcony to answer it. His voice was slightly distorted by the electrical current. "When are you coming back?" I paused for a moment. "I don't know," Kane sneered. "Blanche, you're something else." The phone call ended just as the doorbell rang. I turned my head to see a male student already opening the door, followed by a sudden exclamation, covering his face. He cursed, "Fuck." By the time I stepped outside, the two were already locked in a heated fight. The male student stood at 1.9 meters tall, not even short by American standards, and had regular workout habits. Yet he couldn't gain the slightest advantage against Kane. I rushed over and grabbed Kane, saying, "Kane, what are you doing?" His fist was frozen just centimeters above the male classmate's face, his eyes icy and filled with murderous intent. Finally, he released the classmate's collar and said nonchalantly, "Just didn't like his face." I looked at him in disbelief. "Are you out of your mind? She went mad shortly after getting married." "Grace, are you okay?" The other classmates also stared at this scene in shock. I had no choice but to apologize and usher them out. Especially the helpful male classmate who enthusiastically went to open the door only to suffer this undeserved misfortune. I expressed my sincere apologies to him and even transferred some medical compensation. The male classmate accepted the medical fee and advised me in English with slight concern, "Your friend should really see a psychiatrist." Kane heard it and looked up gloomily. I couldn't take it anymore and slapped him on the head, quickly saying, "All right, I'll make sure he goes. Thanks for the reminder." Only the two of us were left in the room. Kane, instead of going on a honeymoon with Ms. Grace, "What are you doing here looking for me? There's no honeymoon. We called off the engagement." "Why, Blanche, stop playing dumb. You know why?" I frowned. "I don't know." Kane didn't answer. Instead, he tossed me that string of seashell necklaces. "Your second wish doesn't count. Make another one, Blanche. Last chance. Any wish you want, as long as it's yours. I can make it come true." He stared at me intently, actually looking somewhat nervous. His breathing even grew heavier. "My wish remains unchanged. I hope Kane will return to his country and never come looking for me again." Kane punched the wall, drops of crimson blood falling one by one, staining his eyes red. His fist clenched, then loosened, forcing out a strained smile. "YS Residence has always been written in your name." I looked at him in surprise. He continued, "You want a Rolls-Royce? I'll have someone fetch one for you later. Whatever else you desire, just tell me. Don't be stubborn with me. You know what I want to hear you say." Truth be told, I was slightly tempted, but only for a fleeting moment. What's past is past. "Kane, on your 28th birthday, I arrived early and overheard what you said." Kane shuddered, looking at me in disbelief as if wanting to say something, but his lips parted only to fall silent. I shook my head with a smile, repeating his words. "Blanche is beautiful, sure, but she's just for fun. When it comes to marriage, I have someone else in mind. We were just having fun, and I tactfully left before you decided to marry. Isn't everything going exactly as you wished? What more could you possibly be unhappy about?" Kane looked utterly defeated. "Grace and I aren't what you think. I just asked her to play along in a charade. I thought you didn't care about me anymore. I wanted to make you jealous. That day I was just being stubborn with my words. The only one I truly love, the only one I want to marry, is you." I froze. If you'd said this half a year ago, I would have cried. I had imagined countless times the scene of marrying him in a wedding dress, but all those dreams shattered that day. "You think, why didn't I do it?" I know the reason. Because deep down you look down on me. What right does a gold-digging actress have to be proposed to by the lofty young Master Kane? Of course she has to beg to marry you to be worthy of your status. You were waiting for me to force you into marriage with the necklace, so you could convince yourself you were just keeping a promise, not sincere, just pitying me enough to bestow the title of wife upon me. To you, I'm a pet. You can pamper me, be good to me. Of course, the owner would be sad when a pet leaves, but a pet and its owner can never be equals. Kane's eyes brimmed with pain. "Don't belittle yourself," I said. "It's not me belittling myself, it's you looking down on me. After repaying all my debts, I spent every last penny I had left to buy him a Patek Philippe watch. 28 million. Kane had never worn it. I later learned it was too cheap. The least expensive watch he'd ever worn was a 12 million Richard Mille. What I gave him barely covered the decimal points. Yet that had already been the pinnacle of my imagination. To Kane, I'm like that watch, something too embarrassing to show off. Unfit for decent company. You said you were just playing around with me. Fine, you've helped me a lot. You could say everything I have came from you. So I'll play along. You're getting engaged. No problem. I won't ruin your marriage. So I'll leave on my own. What are you doing now? When I loved you, you said it was just for fun. When I gave up my fantasies and played along, you said you loved me. What is this? A love time difference? But it's really too late. In our last 6 months. Every time you were good to me, all I could think was, you're such a great sugar daddy. Seeing you hurt me and the people around me for Grace, I thought, that's normal after all. We were just playing around. How could I ever compare to your future wife? Seeing you propose to her, I thought how perfect you looked together. She probably wouldn't give you a gift you'd be ashamed to show off. I can't even believe you'd say you want to marry me. I'm afraid if I agree, all your friends will suddenly appear, followed by piercing laughter. Kane, look, even if we really got back together, I'd always remember that I'm inferior in your world. I don't want that. The past is the past. In the future I want to stand tall as my own person. Kane froze for a long moment before mustering a single phrase. I'm sorry. Kane was called back to his home country by one urgent phone call after another, with so much going on at the company. How could he possibly have so much time to waste on me? Only at the end of the month did I see him again downstairs, standing under a tree smoking, watching me silently and calmly. I pretended not to notice, but after returning home and showering, I received a huge bouquet of roses from the florist, 999 of them. I took them downstairs and threw them into the trash bin right in front of Kane. The next day, another 999 roses arrived. I tossed them. On the third and fourth days, I mercilessly threw them into the trash bin again, until the fifth day, Kane disappeared, and finally, there were no more annoying roses. In the middle of the second month, he appeared again, this time not with flowers, but with a lunchbox. I didn't accept it. After that, he would often show up suddenly, only to disappear again a few days later. Seasons changed, spring to autumn. In this recurring pattern, I didn't care. There would come a day when he couldn't keep it up anymore. He didn't love me as much as he thought he did. Every day I study the subjects I love, living a life of freedom. I am happy, truly happy. As for the future, leave it to the future. There's no need to worry about it now. Kane confession. I know my acquaintance with Blanche was full of calculation, but I don't care about her motives for approaching me. What I least lack is money. A smooth sailing life is tedious. Money can no longer buy happiness. Blanche can. I enjoy indulging her, watching her scheme before me while pretending to be innocent. Blanche has a shrewd face, yet lacks the depth of cunning. Whatever schemes she harbors in her heart are written plainly across her expression. Her affection is just as transparent, the way her eyes light up when she looks at me, the unconsciously coquettish tone in her voice, the way her body relaxes naturally when she draws near. She likes me, only me. Eager to please me, to repay me, I gave her resources, and she spent half her paycheck to buy me gifts. I gifted her jewelry, designer bags, clothes, houses, and cars. She returned the favor with watches and calligraphy paintings. She seemed to be striving to maintain a delicate balance between us. I didn't probe for reasons, simply relishing how my every mood swing could sway her emotions. But I don't know when it started. Blanche gradually stopped seeing me in her eyes, the things I gave her. She would sell them right away. When I asked about it, she'd play coy, saying she was afraid of damaging them if carried out, so she had to keep them stored away. I could tell she was just humoring me. The more she acted this way, the more anxious and angry I became. I tried every means to test her. Even getting Grace to act along with me. I wanted to see her make a scene, to force me to drive away the other women around me, to make me hers alone. Yet she did nothing, not only moving out of our home but also pushing me away time and again. My anger had nowhere to vent, mixed with an indescribable panic. Yet I didn't know what to do, until she announced she would stop acting, vanished from the world, even changed all her contact information. When I finally found her, I also realized I had lost her long ago. END.